scholar activist. I worked with some of my colleagues, and we started the Resurgent City Group. The Resurgent City Group, our concern was to pretty much link scholarship at the in the academic world and community, in the community environment. From there, we started the Resurgent City Center. The Resurgent City Center received a HUD grant, a COPSI grant of $500,000, and that grant facilitated a community outreach partnership project. The component of the outreach partnership project that I participated in was the Our Market project. The Our Market project was a project which was designed to attempt to build a community-owned supermarket on the corner of Fillmore and Ferry. I participated in that project, and then from there, after that grant finished, I realized that part of the weakness of the project was our own weakness, right? For a certain extent, we think that it was outside of us, but it was our own weakness. In that context, around 2000, I decided that I'm going to have to reevaluate my relationship as an academic and my relationship to the community. Part of my reevaluation of my relationship as an academic and to the community is I realized I had to move from being just a teacher to a mentor. I understood that I could stand in the halls of the ivory tower of academia and tell my students in the field of economics and in the field of finance, go out there and be entrepreneurs. But I was secure. I had tenure, I had a state salary, and I realized, well, wait a second. When my students are going out there and I'm telling them to be entrepreneurs, right, I'm going to have to do something along those lines myself. So in the early 2000s, with my students and some community members, we started an investment group. Now, part of what motivated me to start the investment group around 2000, I don't know if, well, probably some of you felt this pain, right? But I saw that my retirement account collapsed, right? The stock market had collapsed in 2000, and what I realized is that, yes, I'm an economist, but I need to learn more about finance, but not just finance from a theoretical perspective, but finance from an applied perspective. I worked together with some of my students. We kind of studied the stock market for a little bit, but the stock market was collapsing at the time. Then we moved from the study of the stock market to understanding finance in general. We started doing some catered events. We brought together, we provided products and services at for student organizations at Buffalo State College. And then moving on from that, I pulled some of my students together and we started in the field of, like, for example, microeconomics. We did some, what I would call creative work. What I mean, for example, I was teaching a microeconomics class. In the microeconomics class, I suggested that instead of just studying textbook work, why don't we try to build a company outside of, or inside of the class? Take your textbooks back. Let's do a promissory agreement. We're going to use our money that should have gone for textbooks, and we're going to put our money together and build a company and use that company to provide a product. That was a class of about 20 students. The following semester, 15 of those students decided to continue to work with me, and actually we came up with a product. I didn't come up with a product, my students came up with a product. The product was custom bottled water, and we called the custom bottled water B-Low Zero, B-Low Buffalo, right? B-Low Zero. And we sold many crates of that bottled water to student organizations. That was, again, an attempt to move from just being a teacher to a mentor. As I learned more and more about finance, I realized that finance is not about just the stock market. It's not just about producing bottles of water. But I also knew that I had to continue to make a link between my academic experience and the community. The next project I worked on, my wife and I moved into her old neighborhood in the lower west side of the city, and we bought some property. We took some of the poorest property in the neighborhood, in poor condition. We moved into the exact neighborhood that we bought the property in, and using our own dollars, we bootstrapped economic development in that neighborhood. one of the accolades that I really appreciate, that there was a young, not an elder on the street. He was known as the mayor. His name was Kenny, right? And after a few years I was there, we were talking in my driveway. He said, Curtis, you know what? You're the new mayor, right? So on that street, right? And so the point was, yeah, on that street, right? Right? But the point is that we built a relationship. You know, they call me Doc. The men who go up and down my street, pushing the push carts, pushing the shopping carts filled with bottles, they know me, right? They know my students. They know my family. And they respect me, and I respect them. So it was this environment, and these were the kinds of things that I was doing, that when I was approached to seek appointment for the city council, I was like, well, I'm already doing something, right? I'm already doing something, because what I was also doing, I created a startup business called the Conscious Investment Group. The Conscious Investment Group, there was 3 prongs associated with the Conscious Investment Group. And again, this is a function of what I feel is really important for economic development, not just in Buffalo, but economic development in America as a whole. The Conscious Investment Group, 3 prongs. The first prong, what I felt was very important, was a leadership training academy in community economic development. The theme of the Leadership Training Academy in Community Economic Development was theoretical and applied economics. Theoretical economics being the kind of economics understanding the relationship between globalization and a Rust Belt city like Buffalo, New York, and my neighborhood in the Lower West Side, which is one of the poorest census tracts in the city. Right? Linked to that would be the idea of employment generation. But not just employment generation from the supply side, but employment generation from the demand side. What I mean by that, employment generation from the supply side is kind of like, well, I got a college degree or I have a skill, I'm going to go look for a job. What I feel is critically important in the 21st century is employment generation from the supply side. We need entrepreneurs. Our students need to not stop thinking about it, but start thinking about the idea when I leave college, when I leave high school, when I leave the academic world, instead of thinking about going into the world of looking for jobs, we have to learn how to create jobs. Right? Employment generation. And then the other part of the company was targeted use of venture capital. You look at all the empty lots, you look at the abandoned buildings, we can't just have a scattered approach to economic development. We need to use a targeted use of venture capital. That was the idea of the Conscious Investment Group. When I sought the appointment, right, at this point, what I realized, I'm going to be able to talk to an audience like this. I'm going to be able to leverage my experience as an academic, as a scholar activist, and leverage it on the Common Council. And I hope that you appreciate the work that I'm going to continue to try to do, not only as a scholar, but as the council representative of the Ellicott District. Thank you very much.